They took Earth's men, one by one, in the dead of night, from locked homes, from guarded cities, our brothers, our fathers, gone, no ransom, no warning. Just whispers of alien queens who wanted more than war. But when they took the wrong man, when they thought they could own him, Earth didn't send an army. We sent someone far, more dangerous. And what happened next shook the galaxy forever. Welcome to Humanity Prime HFY, the place where humanity always fights back, and sometimes flirts back too. I'm your storyteller tonight, your voice through this wild ride. So buckle in, let's begin the story. They came quietly. No thunder in the sky. No fire in the streets. One by one, men vanished. Not soldiers on the front lines, not politicians in high towers, ordinary men, sleeping in their beds, sitting at their tables, kissing their wives goodnight, and then gone. At first, people thought it was crime. Then, a wave of panic spread when security cameras showed something else. Tall, perfect, alien women, stepping out of thin air, glowing armor hugging every curve, eyes like liquid fire. They didn't break doors. They didn't shout. They simply smiled, touched the man's arm, whispered something in his ear, and he followed, without a fight. Riley Stone didn't laugh at the rumors. His younger brother, Matt, was one of them. One moment, Matt was texting Riley about a football game. The next, only a faint shimmer of blue light in his room. Riley replayed the footage 100 times. The woman who took Matt was tall, silver-skinned, with hair like white silk, and lips curved in a smile that was both dangerous and inviting. She leaned close to Matt's ear, her fingers brushing his neck, and he just went with her. It made Riley's stomach twist, not because Matt looked scared, but because he didn't. The military scrambled to respond. Dozens of men were gone, maybe hundreds. And every recorded case was the same. The women were never violent. They never took anyone by force. They just asked. And somehow, that was worse. Riley had been a soldier long enough to know one thing. If they could take men without firing a single shot, they were dangerous beyond measure, and the higher-ups knew it too. That's why they came to him. Not to fight, but to bait. The plan was simple. Make himself a target, let them come, go with them, and find where the men were taken. He didn't like it. But when they mentioned Matt, he didn't hesitate. 2 nights later, Riley sat in his small apartment, shirt open just enough to show muscle, hair slightly messy, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The blinds half closed, the lights low. Everything designed to make him look relaxed, maybe even a little lonely. He leaned back in the chair, watching the seconds tick on the clock. Every sound felt louder in the silence. A hum in the air, a faint vibration in the floor. His skin prickled, and then it happened. The air in the corner rippled like water. A shape formed, tall, feminine, perfect, silver skin, sharp cheekbones, eyes that glowed faint blue, and a smile that made his chest feel tight. She stepped forward, her armor gleaming in the dim light, molded to her body like a second skin. Her hips swayed in a way that made Riley's pulse skip. He forced himself to stay calm, but inside, every nerve screamed, "This is her." She tilted her head, studying him like a collector studies a rare treasure. "You're not afraid," she said softly, her voice smooth like silk and smoke. Riley met her gaze. "Should I be?" That smile deepened. Most men are trembling by now. Maybe I'm not most men, he said, taking a slow sip of whiskey. Her eyes ran over him, slowly, like she was already imagining what she could do with him. Then perhaps, you are worth the trouble. She came closer, the faint scent of something sweet and electric filling the air. Riley could feel the warmth of her breath as she leaned down, her lips near his ear. Her voice was a whisper. Come with me, and you'll never want to return. For a moment, Riley wondered if this was how Matt had felt, like falling into something dangerous and not caring. Her hand brushed his jaw. The touch was soft, but carried weight, power. He knew the mission. He knew he had to let her take him. But his heart still pounded, not from fear, but from something far more dangerous. The world blurred into blue light. His stomach dropped. He was moving, being pulled, through something cold and endless. And just before the darkness swallowed him, he caught her gaze again. Those glowing eyes, almost daring him to resist. When the light faded, Riley found himself standing on black marble under a ceiling of shimmering stars. Strange figures moved in the distance, and on a high platform, a shadow stood, tall, regal, watching him. She was even more beautiful than the one who brought him here, and from the way she smiled, Riley knew. This was the Queen. Riley stood frozen. The hall was massive. Black marble floors, walls of glowing crystal, and high above, a ceiling that looked like the night sky itself. Every step echoed, yet the place felt alive, watching him. The woman who brought him here stood at his side, head slightly bowed, but all of Riley's attention was on the figure on the throne. The Queen. Her skin was pale blue, smooth as glass. Her hair was white as frost, short but styled to perfection. She wore armor so fitted it looked poured onto her, thin metallic lines tracing curves in a way that was both elegant and distracting. Her eyes glowed faint gold, and when she smiled, it wasn't friendly. So, she said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber, this is the human who doesn't tremble. Riley forced a smirk. You'll have to try harder. A ripple of laughter moved through the alien court. Tall women in polished armor, each one beautiful in a way that made human standards seem small. The Queen rose from her throne, moving with a grace that felt dangerous. Her boots clicked softly on the marble as she came down the steps. Slowly, like a predator circling its prey. You know what we do with men here? She asked, stopping just close enough that Riley could feel the faint heat radiating from her body. Riley's eyes flicked down and back up. Judging by the smile, I'm guessing it's not cooking lessons. Her lips twitched, almost a smile. The guards shifted, some trying to hide their own smirks. We take the strongest, the smartest, the most interesting, she said, tilting her head. Her hand rose, fingertips tracing the edge of his jaw. And we make them ours. Ours, huh? Riley replied. You might want to ask permission first. That earned him a sharper smile, one with teeth. The Queen leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear. Oh, human, you're going to give it willingly. The court chuckled. But Riley noticed something. Not all of them were looking at the Queen. Some were looking at him, studying him. A few, even curious. He decided to push it. Careful, Your Majesty. If I'm as dangerous as you think, your throne might not be the only thing I take. A hush fell over the room. The Queen's eyes narrowed, but there was a spark there now. Interest. She straightened, circling him once before stepping back. Put him in the guest chamber, she ordered. Make sure he is treated well. 2 guards stepped forward, both stunning, both in armor that fit like a second skin. One took his arm, not roughly, but with a grip that made it clear she could break him if she wanted. The other smirked as she walked beside him. Don't worry, human. We'll make sure you're comfortable. Riley let them lead him through twisting halls lined with alien carvings and glowing panels. Everywhere he looked, there were more of them. Women of impossible beauty, some curious, some cold, some giving him looks that would make a priest sweat. Finally, the guards stopped at a set of silver doors. One leaned close to him before opening them. "If you need anything," she said, voice low, "just call." Inside, the room was luxurious. Silken bedding, warm light, and a balcony overlooking what looked like an endless alien city under a violet sky. Riley stepped to the balcony rail, looking out. The air smelled faintly sweet, the breeze warm. From here, he could see tall spires, glowing roads, and far off, another palace. Somewhere in that city, the other men from Earth were out there. But before he could plan, the doors clicked open again. He turned. It wasn't the guards. It was the Queen. Alone. She shut the doors behind her and smiled. The Queen stepped into the room. Her armor glinted in the warm light, the metal tracing her body like it had been made by someone who worshipped her shape. She didn't rush. She walked slowly, every step measured, deliberate. Riley didn't move. He stood near the balcony, his hands resting loosely on the railing, eyes locked on hers. If she was here to intimidate him, it wasn't working. Or at least, he wouldn't let her see it was. She stopped only a few feet away. "You're different," she said softly. "Most men look at me like prey looks at the hunter. You look at me like—" She tilted her head. "Like you're thinking about stealing my crown." Riley's lips curved. "Maybe I am." Her smile deepened, a dangerous one. "Before anyone takes my crown, they must prove they can handle me." She turned toward a low table in the corner. With a wave of her hand, a holographic panel appeared, glowing symbols floating in the air. "They call it the Trial of Worth," she said. "A series of tests, strength, mind, and pleasure." Riley raised a brow. "Pleasure?" Her golden eyes met his. "Some of our games are not for children." She tapped the panel. The floor shifted. 3 circular platforms rose from the ground, each glowing a different color: red, blue, and green. The Queen gestured toward the red one. "This will measure your strength, physical, and otherwise." He stepped onto it. A column of light scanned him from head to toe. The platform flashed, and a massive alien warrior appeared in front of him, her armor black, her muscles thick, her eyes promising violence. The Queen smiled from the sidelines. "Survive 1 minute, and you pass." The warrior lunged. Riley dodged, her spear grazing his shoulder. He used the momentum to grab her arm, twisting it, forcing her back. She growled, a sound that was almost approving. Seconds later, the platform beeped. The warrior vanished. The Queen's smile widened. "Interesting." She motioned to the blue platform. "This one will test your mind." Symbols flashed in the air. Alien patterns, strange shapes. A voice whispered riddles in a language he didn't know. Yet, somehow, he understood. He solved the first, then the second. By the third, the Queen was leaning forward in her seat, studying him. When the final riddle faded, she rose slowly. "You are not like the others." Finally, she gestured to the green platform. "This one," she said, her voice dropping lower, "is my favorite." Riley stepped onto it. Warm light rose around him. The Queen stepped forward, close enough for him to smell the faint sweetness of her skin. "This test," she said, her fingers brushing his jaw, "is not about strength or mind." She leaned in, her lips almost touching his ear. "It is about control." The light grew warmer, softer, like the air itself was tempting him to give in. He could feel her eyes on him, waiting to see if he would break first. And then, the room door slammed open. 2 guards rushed in, breathless. "Your Majesty, there's been an attack." The Queen hesitated. For a moment, her gaze lingered on Riley. as if she didn't trust leaving him alone. Then she turned sharply to her guards. "Keep him here. No one enters. No one leaves." She swept out of the room, her white hair catching the light as the doors slammed shut behind her. Riley stood still, listening to her footsteps fade. 2 guards remained, tall, athletic, armor hugging their curves in ways that would have been distracting if Riley wasn't already thinking 10 steps ahead. One stood by the door, spear in hand, her golden eyes sharp. The other kept glancing at him. Riley leaned casually against the wall. "So, is it always this exciting here, or am I just special?" The guard by the door gave him a hard look. The other smirked. Special is one word for it. He took a slow step closer. "You know where I'm from. Guards don't usually look this dangerous." The first guard cleared her throat, trying to hide a smile. "You talk too much, human." Riley shrugged. "And yet, you're still listening." They didn't respond, but he saw it, the quick flicker of amusement in their eyes. It was small, but it was something he could use. Over the next few hours, Riley turned the silence into conversation, and the conversation into laughter. He asked about the palace, about the city, about the strange glowing plants outside the window, and every time one of them said something, he leaned in, just enough to make them notice. When the Queen returned, the guards were standing a little closer to him than before. Her eyes narrowed, just slightly, as if she could sense something had shifted. "The attack is under control," she said, walking toward him. Then, softer, "But you seem more comfortable than I expected." Riley gave her a slow smile. "Maybe your palace isn't as cold as it looks." Her eyes flicked to the guards, who quickly straightened. "Tio, hand back to him." "You're playing a dangerous game, human." "Only dangerous," he said. "If I lose." She didn't reply, but her expression said enough. The Queen led him out of the chamber and into the great hall. Dozens of alien women turned to watch him pass, some curious, some openly appraising him. The Queen noticed every glance, her lips pressed tighter. By the time they reached the banquet table, Riley could feel it. The balance had shifted. Not much, not enough to act yet, but enough to make the Queen uneasy. They sat. The Queen at the head, Riley to her right. Plates of exotic food appeared, glowing in strange colors, steaming with scents he couldn't name. She leaned toward him. "Try it. You might enjoy it." He picked up a piece of something red and smooth, biting into it slowly, keeping his eyes locked on hers. "Sweet," he said. "Almost too sweet." Her gaze didn't break. That is the dangerous part. The hall was quiet. Too quiet. Then, suddenly, a crash. One of the side doors burst open. A young alien woman stumbled in, armor dented, face pale. "They've taken the outer gates," she gasped. "They're coming for the throne." The Queen didn't wait. She rose from the table, her voice ringing across the hall. "To arms! No one touches the throne!" The warriors moved instantly, armor clashing, boots pounding against marble. Riley stood, watching the storm unfold. He could see it in their faces. This wasn't just a skirmish. This was a fight for power. The Queen turned to him. "You will stay here." He smiled faintly. "Not really my style." Her golden eyes narrowed. "Do you even know how to fight our enemies?" Riley leaned in. "Probably not. But I do know how to fight for a woman who interests me." For a fraction of a second, her lips twitched, almost a smile, before she turned away. But he saw it, and so did the guards. They ran through the palace corridors, past tall windows that showed the chaos outside. Flashes of blue energy lit the sky. Alien warriors clashed in the courtyards, their spears glowing with heat. When they reached the outer gates, the scene was worse than he expected. Dozens of attackers in darker armor were pushing forward, their weapons heavier, their movements more brutal. The queen barked orders, her voice cutting through the noise like steel. Riley noticed something else. The defenders, the queen's warriors, were good, but they were losing focus. Not from fear, but from distraction. Every time he passed, eyes flicked toward him. Quick glances, small smiles. He took advantage. A word here, a wink there, a hand on a shoulder as he passed. A touch that somehow felt like both comfort and a challenge. And just like that, their stance changed. Blades lifted higher. Shouts grew louder. They fought harder. The queen caught it, even while in the thick of battle. Her gaze snapped to him, locking for a heartbeat in the chaos. Something unspoken passed between them. Not anger, not yet, but the awareness that he was doing something she couldn't control. The tide began to shift. The attackers hesitated, pushed back step by step. Finally, with a last coordinated strike, the queen's forces broke them. The dark-armored warriors retreated into the night. Silence fell. Only the hiss of cooling weapons and the heavy breaths of survivors remained. The queen walked toward Riley, her armor scratched but her posture still regal. "You fought well, for someone who was told to stay behind," Riley smirked. "And you lead well, for someone who almost lost her gates." The warriors nearby exchanged glances, some biting back smiles. The queen's jaw tightened, but she didn't look away. "Careful, human. You're starting to sound like you think this palace is yours." He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Maybe. I'm just testing how it feels." Her eyes locked on his, and for a moment, the air between them felt electric. Then, a voice called from behind. "Your Majesty! The council is here, and they are not pleased." The council chamber was colder than the rest of the palace, not in temperature, but in the way every pair of eyes followed Riley as he walked in. Half a dozen alien leaders sat at a long, curved table, older, sharper, and far less impressed by him than the warriors had been. Their armor was plain, their faces stern. The queen entered beside him, chin high. "Counselors," she said, "this is Riley Stone of Earth. He is a distraction," one of them cut in. "A dangerous one." Another leaned forward. "You bring him into battles, into the palace, into your presence, and you expect us to believe you are still in control?" The queen's jaw tightened. Riley stepped in before she could answer. "Funny thing about control," he said slowly. "Sometimes you don't lose it because someone takes it from you. Sometimes you give it away." A murmur ran through the chamber. The queen shot him a warning glance, but her eyes also held curiosity. One counselor stood, circling Riley like a predator. "You think you could lead here, human? You think your kind is fit to rule?" Riley didn't flinch. Riley's mind worked fast. A challenge like this could end with him dead, or it could end with the palace in the palm of his hand. He turned toward the doorway where several warriors stood at attention. Most of them he'd spoken to before, smiled at, teased in passing. He locked eyes with one, a tall, silver-armored woman with a scar across her cheek. "Come here," he said. She hesitated, then stepped forward. Another followed, then another. Within moments, half the guards in the chamber had moved to stand behind him. The counselors looked unsettled. The queen's gaze sharpened. But there was something else there now. Something like respect. Riley smiled slowly. "Looks like you have your answer." One counselor slammed a hand on the table. "This is treachery!" But before anyone could act, the chamber doors burst open. A soldier ran in, breathless. "Your Majesty, they're not retreating. They're surrounding the palace." Riley didn't look at the queen right away. He stepped toward the balcony, scanning the alien city under its violet sky. He could see them, ranks of dark-armored warriors closing in from every direction. Slow, confident, certain they were about to take the palace. Riley turned back to the queen, his voice calm. Call every warrior you have. Bring them here, not to fight, but to watch. The queen frowned. To watch? He smiled faintly. Trust me, or don't, but I'll make you an offer. If this works, the palace is ours. If it doesn't, you can hand me over yourself. She hesitated, then nodded. Within minutes, the great hall was full. Rows of warriors, their armor gleaming, their eyes locked on Riley. Even the counselors were here, standing stiff at the edges of the room. Riley stepped forward, speaking loud enough for every ear to hear. They think they're taking this palace tonight. They think they'll drag your queen from her throne. And maybe it take a few of you with them. But they've already made one mistake. He paused, letting the silence pull them in. They let me inside first. A ripple of laughter moved through the warriors, not mocking, but approving. The queen's eyes flicked across the room, seeing what he saw, loyalty shifting, attention fixed on him. Riley walked the line, brushing shoulders, giving quick smirks, small touches. They want power? Let's show them how dangerous it is when we take it back. We're not going to hide in here. We're going to walk out those gates, side by side, and make them wish they'd stayed home. A roar went up. Even the counselors couldn't hide the spark in their eyes. The queen stepped up beside him now, her voice almost a whisper. You just gave my army to yourself. He looked at her, dead serious. No, I gave them to us. The gates opened. The defenders marched out, not like a desperate force, but like predators. And when the enemy saw them, led by a human with a smile that promised hell, their formation wavered. The fight didn't last long. Every strike was harder, every move more precise. The attackers broke, running into the shadows they came from. By dawn, the palace was quiet again, but it wasn't the same. The queen stood in the throne room, looking at him for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. The gesture was subtle, but clear. He walked forward and sat. Her voice was low but carried in the silent hall. From this day, we share the throne. Riley leaned back, looking out over the court. Careful, Queen. You give a man from Earth a seat like this, he might start redecorating. Laughter rolled through the room, even from the Queen herself.